Hello, everybody. This is Jeremy McGovern. Happy today to present this American Horse Publications member-only webinar. I want to start by thanking Chad Mendel at Equiscene. He helps us put these on, and of course, these are always free for you by being an AHP member. Now, this presentation today will be a bit of a truncated version of the one. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to present with you at Albuquerque, and sorry for that. But I want to be respectful of your time, so we'll go through this and I'll also include some time for questions and answers. I'll put up my contact information at the end, so if there's anything you want to discuss after, just give me a call or shoot me an email, and happy to help. So, okay, and if you have any questions during the webinar, just type them in. You can see that in the control panel, and we'll go through as many of those at the end as possible. Okay, so the topic today is how we're doing virtual events here at Lessiter Media. I'll talk about myself a little bit. I've been in publishing for 22 years, 11 of those here at Lessiter Media. Primarily my work is with American Farriers Journal, the largest publication and only print publication left for farriers in the United States, but also the conference director for the International Hoof Care Summit, and that's our annual event for farriers and equine vets in Cincinnati in January. And always happy when AHP members want to come, just let me know and I'll put you on the press list. I always think about my friend Doyle Blagg. That's him there on the right. Many of you quarter horse people will remember the horse Dash for Cash. That's not that horse right there, but Doyle has been a horseshoer for 56 years. And when I was with him a few years ago, he warned me that as a farrier, the occupational hazard in the barn aisle is horse shit, but for equine journalists, it's going to be bullshit. So he always reminded me to keep that at a minimum.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Your slides aren't moving forward. I think you just need to hit your play button on there.
It is on play. Are
Um,
you seeing them now? Should I go back to the
yeah,
previous?
maybe
All right, and that is under, let's see. Oh, what was the tab before, Chad?
it should be under the show button, and then it'll have PowerPoint as a drop down on it.
Yes, sharing, I'm seeing that. Oh, there we go. Let's just.
There you go. Very good. All right, sorry, carry on.
Okay. Well, let me switch because I actually didn't do anything, but all right. Are you seeing the presentation now? Everything okay, Chad?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Just stop me if it's not working and we can back up or whatever we need to do. So I'm going to talk about what we do here at Lessiter Media, and besides our equine titles, we also have an agriculture event, different titles there, and that's really where we've started with the virtual events. We've been around since 1981 here in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and about 42 full-time employees. 4 of those are off-site. So that's, not sure how we rank among different publishers who are AHP members, but again, I'd say the vast majority of those are on our agriculture side, and that's both on the grower and dealership, the farm equipment side, and we'll go into that a little bit with what those events are like. So today, I hope I'll give you an idea. I think no matter what your role is, if you're in sales, if you're a freelancer, if you're in marketing, I think there's some good ideas you can take away here and apply it to your work. And of course, what we always need are ideas where we can make some money. We're not in this for free. And I'll talk about how we monetize these and can get a little more in detail with that if you want to shoot me any emails afterward if I don't necessarily cover what you're interested in. But we're also all really authorities of the content that we provide to our audiences, and I think we can pull from those to improve the audience experience, but also provide a lot for our sponsors, our advertisers who are going to contribute and sponsor these events. Also, we're not taking new material necessarily. We're also taking a lot of material that we can repurpose either for virtual events or for our publications or websites down the road. Hope also you'll avoid some of the mistakes we made. I'll review a few of those. We've made some pretty dumb mistakes going through our virtual conference process. And also, I think an important thing to consider is, here we are in 2019, if we think back, those of us who are maybe in sales or publishers, what revenue were we generating in 2014 that's no longer available? And what revenue are we generating today that didn't exist in 2014? So we always need to keep moving and try to introduce new ideas to remain profitable and continue to serve our clients and audiences. So I want to get this out of the way. If you're here to learn about how to put on a live event, I don't think this is going to be a good session for you, and I don't want to waste your time, so you should probably drop off now. Really, this isn't a new idea. We've been doing a lot of this stuff for years, but technology sort of outpaced the audience. In a virtual event for me is just interactive, informative event that occurs online. It has a significantly lower cost than what we might do to host a conference like I said earlier, our International Hoof Care Summit. It costs a lot of money to put that on each year in Cincinnati. But again, this doesn't have to be live. I do think that technology, it certainly exists, but it's going to introduce a higher cost for you. It also can be a bit complicated and also introduce some elements that I think, can make things a little more challenging. So here at Lessiter Media, I guess I would describe our virtual events. They're these thematic webinars. And really, that's what we should look at. It's a collection of webinars. We get wrapped up in the mechanics of how we create these, but really it's just organizing webinars based on a single theme. And we can do these over a period of weeks to months and distribute them to a larger audience. And the two case studies that I'll discuss today are from our agriculture side, and that's the National Cover Crop Summit. That's from the grower side, the farmer side of agriculture, and the Dealer Success Academy, which one of our titles, Farm Equipment, caters to the manufacturers and distributors of farm equipment. So save any questions for farming. I'm not an expert on any of that. I'll just strictly stick to equine. Okay. So before planning your first event, you need to assemble a team. And I can't emphasize this enough. This is going to make or break your success. There's too many moving parts just for a single person to handle, or even a handful of people. I think to be successful, because we're talking about sponsorship assets, video recording, promotions, that's an awful lot to throw on just maybe a couple people. I'm not saying it's impossible, but again, I think the fewer people who are involved, the greater chance there is to overlook something. And with that being said, you also need a captain. And this is the leader who's going to direct the vision for the team and make the judgments on what's best for the audience. For us, we rely on an editor in this role. The editor is the person who, and I'll review how we're collecting these virtual event sessions, but I think they understand the content and the audience best. Especially here at our company, we have maybe people in marketing who are working on 3 different areas: the equine side, the grower side, and also the dealership side. So sometimes their understanding of the audience can be a bit lacking compared to an editor or even a salesperson, I think. But it's really the primary editor who serves as the captain for us. But make sure you recognize the editor's workload and encourage the editor to delegate duties. They're going to be important as a workhorse, but they can't accomplish everything themselves. So definitely be careful of how much you put on their plate. It's one thing of being a leader is it's a great way to delegate. And I think an important point about the two conferences that I'm talking about, the Dealership Success Academy and the Cover Crops Summit, is that both of the editors for these are off-site for us, and I think that's important because it shows that we can do these things, out of office. We can rely on maybe freelance help using Upworks or whatever source you like to use to find some extra help. If you are of limited staff, that might be an option for you, but definitely we can do these things without having everybody in-house. So planning the event, ideally, I think it's a minimum 3 months from the decision on the topic to launching the event. I think this is crucial, and these are probably I think our more successful event, and I'll get into the numbers, is the Dealer Success Academy. And what we found from there is 3 months was an appropriate amount of time to collect all the information, but also marketing it. When we talk about sponsorships, we're talking about lead generation. And if we're not giving enough time to collect leads and adequately promote these sessions, I think it's going to be disastrous from the ROI that the sponsors feel. You also need that time to collect from the audience what they would like. Let's never make assumptions that we understand our audiences that well that we want to dictate to them. So we've used social media, the site searches, how people have arrived at our site, what they're looking for on there, print supplements and other methods to collect material and use that to guide us on making the best decisions for our virtual conferences. You definitely want to use this time to get the sponsor buy-in. It's a partnership, and you also want them to be influencing these topics. I think we always need to be careful of the separation of church and state. However, I think, and we're very careful about the sponsors we choose. We want people where there's a mutual credibility that one lends to the other. I think those types of sponsors can, they don't want to make too commercial of topics. To them, getting the leads is the most important point, and allowing them to influence, they're going to make a best judgment that's going to be most attractive to the audience. And for us, it's a 2-day event, a 48-hour window with 6 to 8 sessions, and those are recorded sessions, and we can talk about the mechanics of that. Getting back to the team element, it's crucial to meet at least once a week to review and hold all the team members accountable. By this point, you should have delegated all of the responsibilities, but this was sort of a big mistake we made with the cover crop strategies, the cover crop summit, is, we had somebody off site, they were in charge of organizing the meeting, and it would stretch to maybe 2 weeks at a time, and a lot of things kind of fell through the cracks, and we repeated mistakes by not having good communication with the team who had helped with the Dealer Success Academy. So definitely, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes, have the meeting to hold each other accountable. We found it most effective to use a spreadsheet to note all the tasks, those due dates, and also who's responsible. So we would just update that spreadsheet at each meeting and create a template so you can share this across all properties if you have multiple titles within your company, and that'll help you eliminate duplicating mistakes. And that's, again, the big mistake that we made with our cover crop strategy was not going to the people who had already done it before and listen to them about what worked and what didn't. I think some other considerations for maximizing your audience will be the times of year and the days of the week that affect attendance. We're completely open for all hours during this session. It's a 48-hour session that we pick. We made a mistake with cover crops with the Dealer Success Academy by having it as a 8-hour window over 2 days, and that's just not enough time for the people to take in all 8 sessions. With these 2 farmers, you know, I think it's a lot like the equine world. They don't have set hours. It's pretty much from before sunup to past sundown. But with technology in the cab, you know, it certainly makes these events more accessible to them. But the time of year that we did this, it was before planting season, and certainly with the wetness we've had in the Midwest and other regions, planting was sort of delayed for a lot of people. So we wanted to not put this in June, July, at times when farmers are most busy. With an upcoming event we're producing for farriers, we're doing that over a weekend because we found through our other webinars that, you know, to have something open for 48 hours, you know, especially during the summer when we might have more show season hours, we're just not going to have enough time for our audience to be able to attend the event. Okay, so the important thing is how we get people registered and collect data. Leads are the most important thing for us to sell the sponsorships. We found that is the #1 thing that all sponsors want. So we use a system called Omeda. So we're already managing our subscriptions through this, our conference registration. So it's a tool we already have. And unlike it should be video conferencing and webinars, you know, I think we can make these things less complicated when we just use the infrastructure we already have. Good warning, you got to be compliant with your registrant data. You know, make sure that you have them opt in, knowing that their information is going to be shared. You know, and they're not registering for our site, but they're registering for a specific event. Again, sponsorships are crucial. We can't do this without the revenue. We have a limited inventory of sponsorships available. From our experience, I think we found 5 to 6 works best. We have to price those accordingly. With both of those events, we found that they sold rather quickly. And I think in addition to the leads, having a limited inventory of sponsorships is crucial. You know, there's a combination of assets, the sponsor presence, and we'll look at a couple of those slides, the qualified leads again, but also some additional material that they found beneficial. And one that was really exciting was the virtual attendance bag, and I have a slide for that. When you sell these, don't guarantee numbers. Be conservative in what you forecast. It's all relative. I think we did find we priced it too low. We didn't know what to expect with these being ourselves. It was maybe the biggest surprise was how many we had register. It's going to be relative to your market, because if you consider, you know, maybe 5 leads, if you have 5 people register or 5 attend, that doesn't sound like a lot, but maybe for the dealer, the people producing farm equipment, those 5 leads are going to buy hundreds of thousands to maybe over $1 million worth of equipment each year. And you know, that's not chump change, but it's definitely going to be relative to all of our industries, our assets. You know, for us, you know, one of our sponsors for our farrier event is a manufacturer of horseshoes. You have to sell a lot of horseshoes, so we need to make sure we deliver on those leads. I will say you need to be selective. It's important to have those sponsors who are going to lend credibility to your title, but also if you emphasize leads, you need to make sure that those sponsors are willing to follow up on those leads. Otherwise, they're not going to get the ROI, and they're going to say it didn't work for them, and then you've probably lost a client for the next virtual event. So the first way we promote our sponsors is through the site, and this is just a little clip from the National Cover Crop Summit. You can see it's from after it concluded. They're going to have a presence on every slide for this event, and it doesn't matter if it's promoting it during the event or after it. Throughout its entire history on our site, they're going to retain the sponsorship of that. This is a frame that shows how we present these, and you can see the skin around there where we keep those sponsors listed. And that's on every presentation. Maybe it's a wrinkle to look at having individual sponsors for different presentations, but I think for us, this worked best with our audience and our sponsors. So the virtual attendance bag was a relatively late addition we made to this, but turned out to be very, very good for us. I think there's the digital display ads, there's the leads, but this has actually turned out to be a very nice addition because they can download information, watch videos, and really helped us engage the audience with the sponsors who have additional supplemental information that can benefit the presentations we provide, or in this case, Echo had a new product they were releasing. It's just a really great way to add a benefit to your sponsor, to give them that additional platform to talk about something specific to that audience. So posting it, we use a microsite as our home base. It's unique in the way it looks in relation to the rest of our website. And again, it's an opportunity to promote other products that we have. In this case, with Dealer Success Academy, it's presented by its title, which is Rural Lifestyle Dealer, but we can point people to supplemental articles, other things that we've created. And also each year we have an event that Rural Lifestyle Dealer presents to try to migrate these people who have attended or registered for a virtual event to get them to the live event we're doing offsite. Okay, marketing the event, we need to get people watching this, we need to get them registered. So the numbers of what we did overall, for the Dealer Success Academy, we had 756 register and 486 of those attended the live event. Again, it's going to be relative to the audience. The sponsors were thrilled at that number because they're all promoting equipment. And if you can get a few buyers, it's definitely way above your investment. On the cover crop side, we had 3,523 register, with 3,104 attend the 48-hour block. So we relied on print, direct marketing campaigns, our e-newsletter, individual e-blast, website, social media, the whole ball. And we want to whet the attendees' appetite before the event by previewing that. And here's an example with this slide. We'll promote the speaker, we'll promote the individual topic, but we also give away a few nuggets. And it could be a video clip, it could be a white paper, it could just be a quick 300-word article. But it's not good enough to say this is the speaker and this is their topic. We want to give away a little bit of information so that people do register and do attend that 48-hour block. I think when we market events, one of the most overlooked tools for marketing is our own speakers. I think everybody here, certainly if you've been to an AHP meeting in the past few years, know Ryan Dorn. These speakers, we're picking the best of the best, and they're rock stars, and we can play to their vanity, and they can help promote it. They'll share it with their audience. Ryan's a little different because of what his business is, but especially if you're selecting speakers who serve within your industry, you're probably going to develop your audience a lot quicker by using them, promoting it through their Facebook page, through their own e-newsletter, and definitely, like I said, play to their vanity. They want as many people there because it's a reflection of their success. So the recorded sessions, again, why it's important to have that multi-month window, it should be the captain, that editor, and make sure that they provide a little personality to this. You can use other staffers to communicate with the speakers, but we found there was unexpected time spent on both conferences, and with your editor having to produce podcasts, magazine articles, special reports, all of that stuff, that's a lot, again, to put on a plate. So if we can distribute some of that workload where they're scheduling the time with the speakers, something we found was the prep work with the speakers was too much of a time investment. We did not forecast that, and there's going to be varied degrees of expertise with technology. You'll find that with any of your speakers. So be mindful that if it is an hour-long session, if you consider that you want to include a bit of time for the editor to do a Q&A and go back and retake something because there is a mistake, and then factor in somebody who's not very comfortable with the technology. I think you're gonna find a lot more time is in the prep work. Again, make sure your editors across all events communicate. They're going to find out what's going to work best. They're going to learn how they can minimize that time investment. But after you make a few of these virtual conferences, you'll find out that the first few are where you're going to struggle the most. They'll get much easier as you go along. Streamline it so that your rehearsal, recording, editing, processing, and uploading should only take 2 combined hours per session. Not within a 2-hour window, but we found it to be most efficient when we could keep our hour-long sessions kept to 2 hours of work time. And that meant we really had those good speakers who were well prepared, and all we had to do on the recorded sessions was trim off the front and back. Now, what we use to record these is Zoom. I know a lot of you're using GoToWebinar right now, and that's certainly a fine tool. We've used it in the past. Reason we use Zoom was for our corporate needs, it turned out to be cheaper. They were going through a little bit of transition at GoToWebinar at the time. But something else that we really like is the frame of rate reproduction of video is much smoother on Zoom. And some of our speakers provide video, so we didn't want them to be choppy. So that's what worked for us. But I think if you're already using GoToWebinar, you can be happy with that performance as well. So the quote unquote live event, again, we're not hosting these lives. These are recorded webinars that we open up for a 48-hour window to our registered people. However, we want to have dialogue between presenters and the audience. So you need to get those presenters who are going to be willing to engage the audience through the text commentary. We have a comment section below every article, so we're using that. And your team needs to be present because I think they can better alert the speaker that they have a new question on the comment field. I do think it's maybe it's too much of an expectation to have a speaker completely at work for 48 hours. And also your audience needs to maybe have a limitation to what their expectations are, especially if somebody's in Australia watching it, to think they're going to get a response within 5 minutes, while for your speaker it's 2 in the morning. So we direct our speakers to the comments, and one limitation we found was with our comment field, and we've worked with this since with our content management system. What this slide shows is we don't have comments that nest, it just builds on one another. So it means the speaker has to go back and find that question, the audience has to go forward to find their response. And it was a really, really clunky mistake we made, and didn't realize till we actually had a hosted event, and also weren't able to correct that in time for the subsequent dealerships or Dealer Success Academy. So that's it in a nutshell, but I think in the works, we can take that sponsorship enthusiasm to build the future events. We can think about how we can do these things for our other titles. Like I said, we have one in the works in October for American Farrier's Journal. But also, and I think this is what's key for you freelancers, why not take this model and create custom events for your clients? Either those publications who just don't have the staff, or the manufacturer or distributor who doesn't understand content creation, but maybe would like those leads. And I think there's an online demand for subsequent classrooms, and we can take these sessions and repurpose these. We're going to be doing that with the Cover Crop Summit. We'll take 2 of these sessions and build them into our next one. The theme will be slightly different, looking at a different element of cover crops, but certainly we can repurpose that material. So I want to review some takeaways for success. Use your audience and sponsors to drive the event. You need to have a team operate this, but you need a captain to drive that team. Keep the team to where they're over communicating, and that also means keeping your speakers in the loop. Use your speakers to help promote the events. They probably have a much more enthusiastic audience who's hanging on every word for them. They can help promote your event, especially what we found through Facebook and LinkedIn. Determine how you're going to use these recorded sessions after the event. It's not just how you're going to have these on the site, but are you going to repurpose these for your magazine? It's easy. There's tools like Rev where you can have these things transcribed at a very cost-effective rate, and turn these into quick articles for your publications. Let's think about how our audience intersects. We don't have 100% of our people reading our magazines that go to our website, that listen to our podcasts, that go to our webinars, that go to our live events. So this is no different. And also I think it's a different way to maybe look at some different sponsorship dollars by having transcripts or articles that get additional sponsorship in your print publications or on your website. Don't overpromise the attendance number. I think we're very happy with how this turned out. Our sponsors are very happy. It makes selling subsequent ones easier. But again, if you overpromise on a number and your registrations don't deliver, you're going to have a least enthusiastic advertiser down the road. And don't introduce steps that increase the probability of glitches. If you want to, there's a lot of services that can help you do live events, but I think it just makes a lot of hurdles for your audience. And I don't know if the benefit in relation to the cost of those events is equitable. So, like I said, we'll go through as many questions as possible. I wanted to keep this shorter than what I had planned at AHP to be respectful of your time. And here's my email and my phone number. Give me a call anytime or shoot me an email with your questions. I'll help you any way I can. And let me pull up the Q&A here. Sorry, let me. You
want me to read them off to you?
Yeah, why don't you do that for me,
Sure.
Chad?
So Andrea asks, is there a way for sponsors to sell their products during or in the connection with the event? Is that as big of an incentive for them to work with you rather than collecting and distributing the information of your attendees? So basically getting the leads from the attendees, or is there some way to sell during your event? And I think your take-home package was one way to do that, but do you have any other ideas on how to do that?
Yeah, I definitely, Andrea, spin it for your audience. We're not going to sell a tractor. I mean, it'd be terrific if we could. We're not going to sell a tractor or a front-end loader during one of our events. But if you think about it differently from leads, again, maybe getting to that idea of custom events for that manufacturer or distributor, that could be an option. Absolutely, though. You could dedicate some time in that recorded session. I think audiences are a bit receptive to commercialization. They're getting a free product. Yes, they've given up some of their data, but I think there's a give and take. So you spin it for your audience. And if you want to talk about it offline, I'll share any ideas I have.
Yeah, I would just add to that, it's no different than maybe going to a trade show and having, trade show specials or things like that. If your advertisers or sponsors, can offer some type of discount, or have something that they can, give to someone to take away from that event, that's another way to do it. So it just takes some time to work with those, the sponsors to really understand how that relationship can best, benefit everybody involved.
Well put, Chad.
So she also asks, what is the attendee retention rate for the 2 days events? Do you see a decrease in attendees on day 2 compared to day 1?
No, it was pretty consistent. Cover crops was more consistent in the evening, and that was, I'd say the majority of the audience was Midwest, the Corn Belt, didn't have as much overseas. And on the other hand, with our Dealership Success Academy, we kind of saw it all around. But again, let me reiterate, when you do a 48-hour window, keep it open for the 48 hours. Don't do a limited time, because you're trying to get the maximum exposure, especially if you follow an idea like maybe Andreas suggested. If you say keep it from 8 a.m. to 8 at night, you're eliminating 12 hours of the day you can capture audience.
Sure. Have you ever charged attendees for the live events, or is just all income is just through the sponsorships?
No, that's a really great question, and no, we haven't, and I think it's largely due to our fear that no one would pay for it. And I mean, we recognize that in revenue. Who knows what we charge for our live events? International Hoof Care Summit, for example, we charge $400. I'd imagine this would be a fraction of that, but it's easier to get those sponsorship dollars. Say if your budget is your revenue goal, I should say, is say 15,000. It's going to be easier to get there through a handful of sponsors than multiple registrants. That is a model that has worked for others. I know Eric Schanfelt, who's a media consultant, that's a method he uses, and there's still a live session free component for him, but if you miss that 48 hours window, that's when he charges.
Right. Yeah, and usually you'll probably see, like you said, during the live event, you'll see a free admission that's covered by sponsorships, but they'll also offer a more of a take-home on-demand type of package that you can purchase, and there's different rates on those too. So if you purchase before the event, you might get a discounted rate versus after the event as well. And then you can also add in additional content, to any people that was purchased. So maybe you have some additional content that wasn't presented during the live events, some PDFs that you can take home, or white papers or things like that you can include in there as well too. So there's different ways you can do it if you are looking to kind of go down the pay route, to make it even more worth their while, because we know everybody can't make the live sessions, even if it is, even if you do give them 48 hours, everybody's busy, especially in the horse industry. So just think about different ways you can present this to your audience, and think about different ways you can test some different revenue options going forward, and see what other people are doing out there, and maybe take those and test those. So Christy was just asking, so they're charging for the recording of it, but not the live event.
Right. No, I'm sorry. What was that, Chad?
Christy just asked, they were charging for the live, or charging for the recording of it, but not the actual live event. So within that 48-hour period, they weren't charging anybody, but if they wanted to have the recordings, to watch on demand, they were charging for that. That's what you were saying before as well?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
One more question. If you're planning to host more than one virtual event with a similar topic area, how do you approach sponsors about repeat sponsorship?
Well, we haven't had that experience so far. There is some crossover on our dealer and grower side. It's pretty minimal. I think if you're going to have an event, or say 2 events under the same umbrella or a relatively close audience, it's really delivering the value of the audience. To me, I don't think the strategies are entirely different than how we approach selling a monthly magazine. You know, the topics in the magazine, comparably, the topics of the virtual event are going to differ enough, and also because the timing of the year or whenever you may do the virtual event, you're not going to have you know, completely the same audience that registers or attends. And you know, we didn't have a lot of experience with that. You know, I know, Chad, you do a lot of virtual events. Did you have any experience like that?
Sorry, I missed that part. What were you saying?
Well, I didn't know if you had any experience with this area. We haven't had any run too closely or maybe some overlap with the sponsors where it created a problem for us.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at similar topics, excuse me, you know, what you can do is package those together. So if you want to run the same sponsor for multiple topics or multiple live events, you can do it that way. So we're going to say, you know, hey, we're running 4, you know, live events this year. You know, we can sell them a one-off, and you're probably going to sell those, you know, same thing as print. You can probably sell that one-off sponsorship maybe a little bit higher than if somebody took the whole four-row package. But yeah, I mean, or the other thing is, you know, get them in. You know, if you're new to it, say, hey, we're going to give you kind of an introductory offer on this event. So you might price that a little bit lower just to kind of get them in, get your feet wet. You know, there's going to be kind of some bugs you need to work out, things like that going forward. So get them in there, kind of figure out what works best for them, and you're going to have to help your sponsors kind of along the ways, because a lot of them may not have done something like this in the past. So be there to kind of guide them and try to, you know, tell them how to best interact with the attendees there and how to best follow up with them. And I think some of the biggest mistakes we see sponsors do is, you know, they fail to follow up. So they put all this money into it and they don't have any mechanism to follow up with the actual attendees. So there's no email sequence set up. There's just no way for them to kind of really touch base with them after the event too. So I think that's, you know, when we're doing virtual events, the actual before and the after promotions are the biggest value that comes to the sponsors, you know, almost even more so than the actual live event. And the live event's nice because you kind of have that captured audience for that amount of time. But it's important not to forget the before and after phases as well too. A little bit off topic, but you know, again, it's just being able to plan ahead and know what's coming down the line. So try not to run these in a one-off type of stage, but really kind of figure out where you're going, and you know, if you can think ahead and you know, think about repeat sponsors down the road, you know, sell them as package ahead of time, you know, and obviously if the first one went really well and you know, sponsors had a good feeling about it, it's going to be easy to sell that whole package to them again, you know, down the road.
Yeah, I think going back to these 2 events, collectively the sponsorships sold rather quickly, and they were sold among 4 salespeople, and somewhat balanced, but especially on the dealer side, those were maybe some smaller size companies compared to the cover crop virtual event, and what enticed them, not just the leads, of course, but the exclusivity that, you know, you're going to be one of a very finite number.
Sure.
You know, and you know, that and also, you know, something you mentioned about pricing. Yeah, I think this is definitely something that can fit into bundling. It's no different than how we approach our web advertising, our print advertising, our conference sponsorships. More generous rates they get, the more they do. But with these 2 events, we did emphasize that this is an introductory rate. We want to select you. We want you to be part of this, but make sure you get in now, because you know, not the same as over-promising on numbers, but we can be enthusiastic about promoting this and saying we'd expect this rate to go up. So this is more of that introductory or charter rate or whatever term you might prefer.
Right. Yeah, and make sure you price it, accordingly, because this is, like you said, it's probably going to be exclusive, to, a certain area or a certain niche, but you're going to have those attendees' attention captured for however long your actual conference is. That's way different than a ad in a magazine or a banner ad or anything like that. I mean, you've got a capture audience. They're going to be staring at their logos and staring at the brands, for that entire period of time. Hopefully, you'll have some, introductory or some ways to mention those brands throughout the the entire seminars, live event. So it is different than than any other advertising or any other sponsorship opportunities you have out there. So just make sure you price those accordingly and not too low, where you're not making enough money off it. And like Jeremy said, they sold out really quick, and it wasn't like they were clawing to get advertisers into this thing. So it's something new. Advertisers are going to like that. They're going to like the exclusivity of it. Like being in front of the audience for that period of time. So yeah, just think about that when you go to price it out.
Yeah. Any other questions, Chad?
Yeah, Anna has a question real quick. Says,
Sure.
I don't picture exactly how the 48 hours works. What part is live with the speakers available to respond and what is recorded? Can
Sure.
you just kind of walk through that process real quick?
Sure. So everything is recorded ahead of time. So let's say you want to create an event for April 1st. My suggestion is by January 1, you have an idea of what you want to do, and you already have speakers you're identifying and sponsors you want to target. Because for that editor, for that leader, it's going to take them a while to record these sessions. They're trying to produce magazines and everything else that you're already doing. So be mindful of that to give them enough time to produce. So we use Zoom. We're using GoToWebinar right now for this, but for our events, we use Zoom. If you want to use that, record your sessions, edit those, and then start populating your site with it. So as we get people to register, we're continually reminding them that they are registered, either directly through email follow-up. We want to deliver something of value in that, either a link to a white paper or a tidbit they're going to capture or a link to a video. But we want to constantly remind them that this event is coming up. And we will do that as soon as we have everything decided, the topics, the speakers, and start working on that framework. We have that registrations ready to go, and we get it out there as early as possible. So you've recorded your sessions, and let's say it's April 1st, April 2nd are those 2 days, that 48 hours. Your audience will get an email that these sessions are now available at, say, 12:01 a.m. Eastern time, and it will run, through April 1st, and at the end of the day, at midnight on April 2nd. I'll go back and say, I think it is active during business hours when we would see a lot of the commentary, maybe not necessarily the viewership, but a lot of the commentary. But being mindful that letting your audience know that, Chad Mendel, our speaker, will answer your questions, but it may take him a little bit of time. And again, that's why it's important to have your staff constantly alert of how you're communicating with the people who've watched those sessions, so that they can alert the speaker that there's a new question below your presentation. Can you take that time to answer it? But again, by 48 hours, it's just the window that we've opened it up for. We don't block off any of that time. It's open the entire time for those people who have registered, that they can attend those sessions. The mistake we made with one of these events was capping it during business hours. If somebody needs to sell a tractor, or they have a customer and they're not going to watch this as much as they'd like to, but they might watch it when they're at home, or if it's a farmer, if they're in the cab, or whatever the case may be. And we want to give them the opportunity where it can fit fit their schedule. If issues come up, or because we're dealing with a global audience, that it may not be conducive for them at a certain time to watch it if they're in, say, Australia. Any others, Chad?
I think that's all we have for now.
Okay. Well, again, this is my information up there. Happy to answer any questions. Feel free to email or call. If you missed any of this presentation, this is being recorded and we will put this on the AHP site. Again, these are webinars we provide to you free of charge as AHP members, and we'll be working on our next topic. If you have any suggestions, you can shoot them over to me, Chad, or Chris. We're happy to take your ideas and provide you with more content that will help you be more successful. And again, I want to thank you, Chad, not just for hosting these, but your expertise with this topic in particular, I think, lended some real value to it. So again, thanks. And thank you to everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.